What if I told you that you've lived hundreds of lives before this one? That every time you die, you're reborn with all your memories intact? And what if some of those immortal souls decided that the only way to end their eternal suffering was to destroy all life on Earth? This is Mark Wahlberg, like you've never seen him before. Not as a tough guy cop or soldier, but as a man slowly discovering he's an immortal warrior, caught in a battle that's been raging for centuries. We're talking about people jumping off bridges, fighting midair while falling from planes, and a weapon so devastating it can literally end every living thing on the planet by attacking DNA itself. Today we're diving deep into Infinite, a movie that asks the ultimate question. If you could live forever, would that be a blessing or the worst curse imaginable? And more importantly, what would you do if the only way to stop suffering was to make sure nothing could ever live again? Stick around, because this story gets absolutely insane. And I promise you haven't seen anything like the ending. Let's get into it. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe for more movie breakdowns. Our story begins in 1985 Mexico City with a man named Heinrich Treadway, played by Dylan O'Brien. Now, right off the bat, this isn't your typical action hero. Treadway is running for his life through the streets, being chased by both authorities and a mysterious man named Bathurst. Treadway meets up with his associates, Abel and Leona, and they're all talking about something called the egg. This isn't some Easter decoration we're talking about here. Treadway has stolen this egg from Bathurst, and it's clearly something incredibly dangerous and important. In what might be one of the most intense escape sequences you'll see, Treadway tells Abel something crucial. If I don't survive, remember to look inside.
If I fail, look inside.
He then proceeds to drive his car straight off a bridge. But here's where it gets crazy. Mid-air, he jumps out of his falling car and somehow lands on a crane 150 feet away. It's absolutely bonkers, but it sets the tone for just how superhuman these characters are. But the escape doesn't go as planned. Treadway watches helplessly as Bathurst arrives and brutally kills both Abel and Leona. Fast forward to 2020, and we meet Evan McCauley, played by Mark Wahlberg. Now, this is where the movie gets really interesting from a character perspective. Evan isn't living some glamorous life. He's struggling with what doctors have diagnosed as schizophrenia. He's been institutionalized, he's had violent episodes, and because of his mental health record, he can't get a job anywhere. But here's what makes Evan fascinating. He has skills he shouldn't have. Despite never being trained as a bladesmith, he can forge a perfect katana. His hands just know what to do. It's like muscle memory from a life he's never lived. Desperate for money to buy his medications, Evan takes a job forging a katana for a local gangster. The deal goes south in the worst possible way, when the client turns out to be a complete psychopath who tries to cut off his prostitute's hand just to test the blade's sharpness. Evan can't stand by and watch this happen, so he intervenes and has to make a run for it. Of course, he gets arrested, but this is where things get really weird. At the police station, a man introduces himself as Bathurst, but this isn't the same actor from 1985. This is Chiwetel Ejiofor, and he immediately starts calling Evan Treadway and claiming they've known each other for centuries. Bathurst starts showing Evan all these objects, weapons, artifacts, personal items, claiming they're from Evan's past lives. He's trying to trigger Evan's memories.
I wish I knew what you were talking about, but I don't know what to do.
Jesus!
And you can see Evan struggling with this. Is he having another psychotic episode? Or is this man telling the truth about something impossible? Just when Bathurst seems to be making progress, a car literally crashes through the wall of the police station. Evan's rescuer is Nora Brightman, played by Sophie Cookson, and she leads Bathurst on this incredible car chase through the city before finally shaking him off. Nora takes Evan to meet her group, And this is where the movie's central concept gets explained. Brian Porter is the director of operations, and he lays out this mind-blowing premise. There are about 500 people in the world who can remember all of their past lives. They're called the infinites. These people have been reincarnating for centuries, maybe millennia, always retaining their memories and experiences from previous lives. Now, you'd think this would be an amazing gift, right? Unlimited knowledge, endless experience, the ability to master any skill over multiple lifetimes. But here's where it gets dark. The infinites have split into two opposing factions. The believers like Nora think this remembrance is a gift from a higher power. They believe they're meant to use their accumulated wisdom and abilities to make the world better, to guide humanity toward a better future. But then, there are the nihilists, led by Bathurst. They see their immortality as a curse. Think about it. You have to watch humanity make the same mistakes over and over again. You see wars, genocides, suffering on repeat throughout history. You watch everyone you care about who isn't an infinite die, while you just keep coming back. The nihilists believe that the only way to end their suffering is to end the cycle of reincarnation itself. And how do you stop reincarnation? Simple. If there's nothing left alive on Earth, there's nothing to reincarnate into. Both factions believe that Evan is the reincarnation of Treadway, and hidden somewhere in his memories is the location of the egg, a device capable of ending all life on Earth. The egg attacks DNA itself, targeting every living thing on the planet. Nora explains that infinites usually start remembering their past lives when they're young, and by puberty, they have total recall. This is why Evan was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He was getting flashes of memories from lives he'd never lived, and doctors interpreted this as mental illness. Meanwhile, Bathurst tracks down Brian's location in New York and launches a brutal attack. He kills Brian with something called a dethroner, a weapon that doesn't just kill the body, but downloads the person's memories into a digital chip and prevents them from reincarnating. It's the ultimate death for an infinite. Despite everyone's efforts, Evan is struggling to unlock Treadway's memories. There's a reason for this. Evan suffered traumatic head injuries earlier in his life that left a steel plate embedded in his skull. This physical trauma is blocking his access to his past life memories. Nora decides to take Evan to someone called the Artisan in London. The Artisan, played by Jason Mantzoukas, has developed technology specifically designed to help infinites recover their memories. After a session in the Artisan's machine, Evan finally unlocks the truth about his past life. The revelation is devastating. Treadway and Bathurst weren't always enemies. They were actually comrades who fought side by side for centuries. They were both believers, working together to make the world better. But over time, Bathurst became disillusioned with their mission. He watched humanity continue to make the same mistakes, despite the infinites' efforts to guide them. Bathurst's solution was the egg, a device that would end the reincarnation cycle by destroying all life. When Treadway discovered what Bathurst was planning, he attacked Bathurst's laboratory, stole the egg, and killed Bathurst's top scientist, making it impossible for Bathurst to recreate the weapon. But here's the crucial part. Before Treadway was killed by the previous incarnation of Bathurst, he performed surgery on himself and hid the egg inside his own body. The believers recovered Treadway's corpse and have been keeping it preserved at their headquarters, not knowing it contained the very weapon they were trying to keep away from Bathurst. Now, Bathurst knows where the egg is, and he launches an attack on the Believers' Hub to retrieve Treadway's previous body. What follows is an absolutely incredible sequence of action scenes. Bathurst retrieves Treadway's body and takes it to Scotland, where he extracts the egg exactly as expected. Meanwhile, Nora attempts a desperate assault on Bathurst's headquarters. but fails to kill him. Evan, still recovering from injuries sustained in previous battles, decides he can't let Nora face this alone. He joins her for a final assault on Bathurst's base, where Bathurst is preparing to activate the egg and end all life on Earth. The climax takes place on an airplane, because of course it does. Bathurst gets on the plane with the activated egg, and Evan follows him. What happens next is one of the most insane action sequences I've ever seen in a movie. Bathurst shoots Evan with a dethroner, the weapon that would permanently kill an infinite. But remember that steel plate in Evan's head from his earlier injuries? The bullet hits the plate instead of penetrating his skull, giving Evan the chance to fight back. During their fight, the device containing the activated egg gets knocked out of the plane. Both Evan and Bathurst jump after it. And I'm not exaggerating when I say they have a full fight scene while falling through the air. In mid-air combat, Evan manages to pull the egg out of its activation device, stopping the countdown that would have ended all life on Earth. But Bathurst isn't done. Evan makes the ultimate sacrifice. He shoots Bathurst with the dethroner, ensuring that Bathurst won't be reborn to try this again. Both of them crash into the ocean, with Evan drowning while still holding the egg, making sure it can never be used again. But remember, Evan is an infinite. Death isn't the end for him. The movie ends with a sequence that's both hopeful and bittersweet. Nora and the artisan destroy the memory chips that Bathurst had been using to trap the souls of murdered infinites, freeing them to reincarnate again, including Abel from the opening sequence. Years later, we see the cycle continue. Nora and Abel are reborn and meet at something called the beginning, presumably where newly reincarnated infinites gather to reconnect with their community. Most importantly, Evan is reborn in Jakarta, Indonesia. The artisan, now older, visits the young Evan and offers him a katana. When Evan touches the weapon, his memories flood back. He remembers who he is, what he's done, and his role as protector of humanity. The cycle continues, but the threat of the egg has been ended, at least for now. Infinite is one of those movies that takes a simple concept. What if reincarnation was real and you remembered everything, and pushes it to its absolute extreme? The action sequences are genuinely insane. The philosophical questions about immortality and suffering are fascinating. Mark Wahlberg gives one of his most interesting performances as a man discovering he's so much more than he ever imagined. The movie asks some really deep questions. If you could live forever, would that be a blessing or a curse? How many times would you have to watch humanity repeat its mistakes before you'd want to end it all? And most importantly, what are we willing to sacrifice to protect the world, even if that world is imperfect? What did you think of Infinite? Did the concept work for you, or was it too out there? And more importantly, if you found out you were an infinite with memories of past lives, would you be a believer trying to make the world better, or would you become a nihilist wanting to end it all? Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more movie plot summaries just like this one. Thanks for watching.